Peace, family. Vie Darling, the Cosmic Queen, is your intergalactic interpreter. And I am coming to you live on the day of the full total solar eclipse. And it is 12:35 Eastern Standard Time. I'm in New York. And we are technically in the path of the eclipse. I want to speak to a little bit of what you can expect. When I just meditated a little bit at the opening of this reading, I saw this gold cross, but it's not like the crucifix. It was a cross that's equal distance across the middles. And so whatever that means, I'm going to just tap in and get a little bit more information about what that could possibly mean. But what I channeled, I don't really know how to describe, but it was pretty gross. And so I want to say that this, what I also heard when I saw it was essentially this organic material that was peeling off of a body, which was my body, and it was kind of this pod. And basically what I'm sensing is that if you've been in kind of a cocoon phase, if you've been a caterpillar becoming a butterfly sort of phase, that is coming to an end with this total solar eclipse, and we're going to be collectively coming out of that. You do have to understand that when we're in what I would essentially refer to as a pressure cooker, in terms of Saturn is putting pressure on us to become a better version of ourselves, to go higher in terms of vibration, and in terms of our consciousness. And it's really asking us to match our external living in the way that we expend energy with this heightened version of consciousness that we are now experiencing. Thank you so much for the hearts and eggs. We're being asked to really align ourselves with that. And so that is essentially a pressure cooker. That's what I mean by that, because Saturn is the planet that puts the pressure on. And we also have to remember that pressure makes diamonds. So a lot of my channelings and readings as of late, I've been getting the song Diamonds by Rihanna a lot. And it's interesting because Spirit is bringing up diamonds are a girl's best friend, but that has not come up at all in the past while. And what I'm seeing more so than anything is the high heart chakra becoming a diamond. And the fountain of life is in the high heart chakra. That is from which immortality flows. If you want to be effervescent, if you want to be ever youthful, juvenescent is another word that we might use. If you want to be that that immortality, that ability to live forever. And when I talk about living, I mean not just surviving, having the most fulfilling experience of incarnation that you possibly could have. And also, yes, of course, being able to reincarnate and that sort of thing. That flows from the high heart chakra, and we access the high heart chakra through the fourth dimension. In temporal reality, in space-time, the fourth dimension is time. Time is associated with the planet Saturn. So you see that we keep coming back to this. And I guess what Spirit is revealing to me is that all of this has been in service of you becoming triumphant over time, of you becoming triumphant over death. Because if you think of it, so much of what we do as human beings is ruled by this fear of dying. It's ruled by this fear of passing away, I will say. And that is what our basal ganglia, our reptilian brain, in the back of our, the back part of our brain, the first part of our brain that ever developed, and the first part that develops when we are in utero. That is our primal center of survival. And essentially its job is to keep us alive. And it does that by identifying threats to our living. Unfortunately, so much of us have gone through experiences that have essentially traumatized us to the point where we have a hyperactive basal ganglia. We have a hyperactive sense of survival, and it's actually choking us and keeping us from being able to live a truly fulfilling life. You understand? It's keeping us locked in a box. I'm hearing the song by No Doubt, Trapped in a Box. It's from their first album. But I'm hearing Gwen Stefani being like, trapped in a box. And she's talking about like a TV screen, actually. And essentially I would say that is what it is, because if you think about it, like, what do we do when we watch television? We are looking at something, and we are also generally hearing things. You might be reading things if like you have subtitles on, but we're watching images and we're watching stories play out. So the idea here is like this exploitation of Saturn, of time, and of linear time in a time-space continuum, which is the fourth temporal dimension, making us, and this fear of what could happen over time is in effect being used as a prison for us. Because if we think about like, oh, actions have consequences, certain things have had certain consequences that we don't want to experience again. And for this reason, we might not be willing to take risks. We might not be willing to step outside the box, as they say. And when you think of what that box is, I would say that it's societal norms, it's cultural norms. And this is specific to your own individual life that you live, whatever kind of context you live in with, I guess you could say, like your friends, your immediate family, your community that you grow up in, the school that you go to, that sort of thing. But then on a larger scale, it's also like cultural norms of the dominant culture, which all of us exist within. And we know what that global culture is. You understand? That's a lot of what we get informed by the media, pop culture, all of those things that we participate in, whether or not we like it. And these things inform the structures of what is seen as appropriate, what is seen as something that we can do or should do, versus what we should and should not be doing. So this process, this experience that we've been going through is asking us to, has been pressing upon us this need to step beyond the boundaries of what we have been told is appropriate, what we have been told. And that makes absolute sense, because Saturn is the ancient co-ruler of the ancient co-ruler of Aquarius. And we are entering the sign of Aquarius. So it makes sense that we would have this sign putting tremendous pressure on us in order to level us up out of fear-based programming, fear-based thinking, and operating from a place of fear, being possessed by the spirit of fear, being driven by the spirit of fear, and instead stepping out of that need to survive and into the diamond high heart chakra, crystalline high heart chakra, that is flowing to us abundant life, the living waters, as they say. And so we have to be able to do that, because Aquarius is also very much a sign of transgression. If it is about forward evolution, if it is about progress and innovation, technology, you know what I mean? New technologies that progress us forward, or progress us rather. And I do want to take away the positive connotation or any type of like emotionally charged moralistic loading of the idea of progress, because in what I'm picking up from Spirit is like, it's not about new things can come in, because I think a lot of times we associate Aquarius with like freaky and weird and different and good, and it's like, it's simply different than what the tradition was. And those kinds of People who are very different from what a tradition was could also be, it's informed by what the tradition was. So those people could be incredibly conservative. Those people could be true Luddites, like very much, I would say regressive. Because think about it, as we progressed across the past, like, let's say 20 years, we've seen a regression in social norms in the United States. I'll be specific to where I live. We've seen a regression in social norms in the United States where things that should not be allowed are being allowed. Things that for many decades were socially unacceptable have now become acceptable in the public eye. We've seen things like, my friends and I were watching the Anti-Social Network just now on Netflix, and it's like, we've seen things like literal insurrection happen because of the internet. That is a new technology that developed as we edged into the age of Aquarius. Literal insurrection, something that has never happened before in the modern age of the United States existing. And there were no real consequences for that. Sure, some people went to jail because of participating in that, but there were no real consequences for that. And so what was that? That was a reaction to people feeling, and this is Aquarius energy, this was a reaction to people feeling like there was too much becoming liberal, like marginalized identities were getting too many rights. You know what I mean? Like, we were going too far away from these dominant structures of oppression and subjugation. So that too is Aquarian energy. It's important to understand that there are two sides. Actually, it's all a spectrum, but there are two polarities between which this can exist. So for each and every single one of us, as we've been edging into the age of Aquarius, and this eclipse is that like end of the eclipse window, portal that we are jumping through, timeline jumping through, in order to affix ourselves in this new Earth timeline. And the pressure that has been on us has been essentially expunging, pressing down, putting this load upon us to get out all of the shadow, get out all of those generational curses that were keeping us tethered to the old Earth timeline. And honestly, I feel like if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of like life experience in terms of trauma, you might not have a lot of street smarts, like everything's been very easy for you. People like that, I know a lot of people like that, and people like that tend to not be able to progress, and they tend to get really stuck in those divine traps that keep people down, that keep people in prison, because it's like, well, my prison is a nice, comfy space for me to be. Why should I leave this space? Nothing seems to be going wrong for me. I understand theoretically that other people are suffering, but I'm not. So, just as well, I can believe that they're not actually suffering. This is actually the reason why I ended an almost 20-year friendship with my childhood best friend, because she didn't understand. She, as a light worker, came here to help in the process of spiritual abolition, liberation from the enslavement that we are in within these social structures. And she failed in her mission because she decided that her reality of privilege was the only reality that existed. And this is why I say for myself, do I wish that terrible things had not happened to me? Of course I don't want terrible things to happen to me, but I can be grateful for all of the experiences that I had, because they made me who I am today, and my eyes are wide open. There's no going back. You understand? So if you've been really suffering in this time, as we've been since this time last year especially, I would say, but within this 4-year cycle, if you've really been experiencing a lot of like suffering, just know that its purpose was to level you up. And I guarantee that you have been leveled up in the spiritual sense, in the sense of consciousness. Yeah, you may have lost a lot of friendships. I know that I have in the past 4 years. Like I said, that friendship that was almost 20 years, another friendship that was, I think we had been friends for 16 years, she and I. And then this other person and I were friends for 14 years. Like, I had a lot of really long-standing relationships that I had to let go of because they were tainted by the Jezebel spirit. They were tainted by narcissism and toxicity, control and power dynamics, which has to do with Pluto. We know that right now Pluto is at 2 degrees of Scorpio. No, sorry, 2 degrees of Aquarius. So once again, that brings us back to that Aquarian energy, and that Aquarian energy is progressing us. It is teaching us how to operate from our seat of personal power, because that's what Pluto is the planet of. Understand? So what you also need to understand is that Pluto actually co-rules the sign of Scorpio alongside, alongside Mars. So it is about action and how we utilize our power, how we utilize our energy, our causal energy. Because causal energy is the second to last, the penultimate realm before we get to the 3-dimensional physical realm. So there have been a lot of tests that have been leveling us up in order to prepare us to receive our personal power. Many of us have felt, you know, something, I'm not experiencing, like, I know I'm more powerful than this. Why is it that I feel like I have, like, my arms tied behind my back? Why is it that I feel like the brakes are on this bike and I cannot move as quickly as I would like to? Have you ever been riding a bike and you kind of had the brake pedals pushed down because you wanted to like move a little bit slower if you were going a little bit too fast, but you didn't want to stop all the way? That's how it's been for a lot of us because of the density of the 3-dimensional world. As we are progressing into a higher density, and that's why we are progressing into a higher level of consciousness, as we move into a higher density, as we become more of the collective is able to access higher dimensions, 4D, as we move on the planet as our spaceship into higher dimensions. It stands to reason that as we break through those thresholds and we move higher and faster, like, we're going to feel immense pressure upon us. Think about rocket ships. You know what I mean? When the rocket ship is breaking past the threshold of the atmosphere, all of these things start to fall off of the rocket ship, things that can't stay on it as it goes past those layers of the atmosphere. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what those are called. I'm channeling right now, so you're gonna have to bear with me. But as we smash through these layers that have been placed upon us, these veils of forgetfulness, these veils that keep us under, that keep our consciousness moving at a slower density, because we have to think about, like, you know, waves move at a certain frequency, and the higher frequency something is, the faster it moves. The lower frequency it is, the slower it moves. That's what we're talking about when we talk about low vibrational. It means that it's moving low and slow, long wavelengths, as opposed to quick moving. When it's lower and slower, it's going to be red. That's what they call red shifting in astronomy. Whereas when it's more high vibrational, it's going to be blue. So I'm picking up things from the blue rays, the blue ray collective. Some folks might identify with being a blue avian, Archangel Michael. I'm sensing Archangel Michael here. And this is, once again, I talked about this, I think, around the vernal equinox. You know, we're talking about left-hand path, right-hand path, but specifically I'm thinking about the fact that, like, when you get hotter, the hotter you get, the closer to the color white you get. And this has nothing to do with race. So we're talking about energy. The hotter that you get, the higher frequency you get, the closer to white you get. So you actually go with, like, ultraviolet. I want people to start, if you use violet flame in your energy work, I want you to stop picturing it as the color violet and start picturing it ultraviolet, white. Like, so purple, so high vibrational, so high frequency that it is white, because this is purification. And this is what we've been going through in this time. I know that Saturn gets a bad rep, but like I said, pressure makes diamonds, because pressure takes gold, pressure underground, which is Pluto and Saturn working together, take coal underground and press upon it until all of the iniquities are pressed out of it and it becomes a diamond. And we have this idea that diamonds are the strongest things on earth, right? We have moon in Aries, and this is it tropically, and this is where we are experiencing this eclipse. Like I said, Mars, which is the ruler of Aries, is the ancient co-ruler of Scorpio, and we're talking about Pluto, which is the current modern ruler. So this has to do with our causal energy. It has to do with karma. Pluto is a karmic planet. Saturn is a karmic planet. People don't realize that Jupiter is a karmic planet. And what I'm picking up right now is Jupiter's a karmic planet in that, like, you know, when they're like, oh, these people are the God's favorites, the lucky ones, it's not because, oh, like that person is just lucky. Like, that's not fair. No, they have a lot of good karma that has been upon them. And some of you haven't yet received all of your good karma because it was in a higher dimension. And yes, you already transcended that higher dimension. But the issue is that the planet had to get there too. You may have existed very much oppositionally to the world around you because you were at a higher frequency. You were at a higher dimension. However, I want you to understand this much, and I want you to take this with you because I think that it can be very validating for a lot of us. It's not because of you. There was nothing wrong with you. It's not because you were doing anything and you didn't deserve to get back what you put out into the world. That's not it. And people, you may have known, like, I'm not supposed to be living this life. It's like I'm reading for people who, like, you've been told by spiritualists, you've known your whole life, you were supposed to, like, have a comfortable life, have a privileged life. You were supposed to have, you know, all of your needs being met and experience fulfillment in all of your relationships, you know, people, places, things, institutions, in your relationship to higher power, in your relationship to yourself. You were supposed to experience all of that, but you haven't been experiencing that on earth in the 3D realm. When I was meditating last night, I meditated for hours last night because I just could not fall asleep until like hella late. Because there was a lot of spiritual warfare going on last night, and I was really doing battle in the unseen, in the ethers. And then at a certain point, I was just like, yo, I'm not doing this. And I put on some music and finally I fell asleep. So this is enough to say, don't give more power to these energies and entities than they deserve. Because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is your abundance wasn't in the 3D. We had to get to a higher frequency in order for your abundance to manifest on earth in the earth plane, because it simply could not. It was not in a quantum physical resonance to be able to do that. Y'all understand what I'm saying? For me, I'm like, I don't know if I'm explaining it like thoroughly enough, but I know this message is going to reach whoever it's meant to reach, you know. And if you want to watch the playback, I always post my lives on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch the playback if there are parts that you missed that you really want to see. So understand that this message is going to reach exactly who it's meant to. The fact of the matter is, if it's 144,000 of us, out of 8 billion people on the planet, that's not a lot of people. When we do a general reading, when readers do a general message, there are going to be messages that resonate with only one person, then there are going to be messages that resonate with millions of people. You feel me? It's really important to understand that. And so why am I saying this? I'm saying this because a lot of you, you know, you might look at the numbers on how many people have watched, like, who are watching a video that you're also watching, and you may have been told that you're very unique. You may have been told that there's no other like you, that you carry a vibration, that you carry a mission that is only for you. And that may be true for everybody, but not to the same extent to the people that I'm talking to right now. You understand what I mean? It's not to the same extent as who I'm talking to right now. The chosen one collective. There are not a lot of us, period. You feel me? I can't do the math right now on what 144,000 out of 8 billion is. I can't really do that math right now, because I'm also not good at like math like that. But what I'm trying to communicate to you is that there are some of us who have really truly suffered because we are bringing with us a prosperity and abundance. We're bringing with us our sovereign domain, our kingdom come. Okay, thy will be done through us on earth as it is in heaven. The heavens are the cosmos. Do y'all understand? The celestial realm on earth as it is in heaven. It has to be enacted through us. Those of you who are earth angels, those of you who are incarnated gods on goddesses on earth, incarnated deities, do you understand what I am putting down, what I am expressing to you? And you know, you don't have to go around telling everybody, I am this, I'm a god like Kanye does. You don't have to. You can carry it in your energy. And all that matters is that you live that. That's the causal energy that I'm talking about. You put that energy out there. You put that vibe out there. And now the causal energy that's coming in with moon entering Aries, and we're having a new moon, and we're having a total solar eclipse. The energy that's coming in with all of that is ushering in these light codes that are amping up our frequency, taking us higher. That's part of why we're moving faster. That's part of why we're heating up. You understand? The planet is literally moving faster. We have literally lost seconds. And if you think that that's not that much time to you as a human. But overall, you see what is happening on the planet in terms of the environment and the climate by losing fractions of a second over time. So understand, yes, when I say we're moving faster, it actually does, it plays a big role. It means it plays a big role. It has a big impact. And these light codes are coming in, and these light codes are leveling us up individually, personally, and also collectively. And as we are moving faster, our abundance is coming in faster. You may have heard readers say your inheritance is coming to you faster. It's like it's heading towards you like the speed of light. I'm seeing a comet, and I'm remembering in Adventure Time, you'll hear me reference Adventure Time a lot. Healing the mother line, healing ancestral work, mother line growing up. When the comet is coming to, or I'm hearing 𝗵ᗄ, the tree of life, and the rainbow bridge. I'm channeling about the rainbow bridge, the sacred waters, nourishment, replenishment, health, rest, self-care. So this is what we need to be tapping into, because there is healing of the divine feminine that's coming in. And through that, you see this is high heart chakra energy, mana. This is the highest form of plasma. Okay, this is the highest form of plasma that we can experience. In the past 2 days, I've been channeling, when we talk about the crystalline realm, the Christ collective. Christ consciousness is available to everybody, but the Christ collective that's the 144,000. And they were born already activated to fourth dimensional consciousness. That is what Christ consciousness is, fourth dimensional consciousness. This is immortality. You have become victorious over death. You might think about the Hermeticism, Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth the Atlantean, right? How many times Hermes thrice born? Hermes thrice-born was not necessarily like the deity or the god. This is a person who had developed mastery over death. We talked about this already in the beginning, and this is bringing back this connection to Pluto, which, as I said, is at 2 degrees. It is at 2 degrees of, actually, no, it's at 1 degree. This doesn't make sense to me, but it's at 1 degree, the concretization of an ideal. And then we have it moving to 2 degrees of Aquarius on the 12th. An unexpected thunderstorm. So this is a date that you want to keep note of. That's 4 days from today. So I believe that's going to be Friday of this week, if you're watching this when I'm posting it. The need to develop the inner security, which will enable us, and then I have 4 up here, right? How many 2s? We have 3 2s here, 2 4s and 1. 4, 12, that makes 3, that makes 7. 2, 2, 4 makes 8, that's 15, that equals 6. Healing. Healing the mother line. I am getting really hot. When I start channeling, my body gets super hot and I start sweating a bunch. And this is why, like, this is relevant to people. So keep up with me. If you are from this collective, like, you'll understand, especially because I did channel the 13th solar dragon, Sophia consciousness, finally is able to manifest in her vessel on Earth, with this cosmic egg cracking open. That's what this is, okay? But understand, we got healing the mother line, and we got these sacred waters. I'm gonna come back to that. I process energy, I process things very quickly in my body because my body is an alchemical chamber. So I'm extremely sensitive to any kind of imbalance in my hormones, in my chemicals, anything like that. So people be like, oh, why do you take so many showers? Because I take 2 showers a day usually. And I'm like, because I produce a lot of fluids. I produce a lot of fluids because my body is very quickly taking the nutrients and pushing everything out. I have to drink so much water in a day. You feel me? So some of you might identify with this if you are somebody who is an alchemical chamber, if you are somebody who is of the Christ Consciousness Collective, if you are somebody who, like, my first incarnation was on the planet Mintaka. Prior to that, I did not enter into bodies. Mintaka is a water planet. It is a crystalline water planet. The dark, the false mother, the false matrix. I talked about this so much when I used to make my lives on Instagram, but you can also watch, I took my Patreon archive off of Patreon when I deleted my Patreon and I put it onto YouTube. So you can go and watch all of those archived videos on my YouTube. But the false mother, the false matrix, because a matrix is a mother. It is being in the womb. This false womb does not breed life. It only breeds death. It is barren. And in fact, it is the mother that eats its children. Vagina dentata. We have been taught in this culture, Western culture specifically, that that's something to be proud of. Why would you be proud of not being able to produce life? Whether you want to or not. I'm not talking about the actual physical expression of doing that. I'm talking about being able to manifest. They can't manifest. They're vampires. This is the fact of the matter. You feel me? And so this, their matrix that they've created, this ideological structure, superstructure that they've created, which we've talked about this before in, what is this? In the Ethereum, in spiritual abolition, we talk about this. Aspiritualism, cis heteropatriarchy, anti-indigeneity, anti-blackness, and white domination, capitalism and industrialism. This forms an inverted pentacle, and it is an ideological structure that we have been indoctrinated into. We know this for a fact. Thomas Jefferson literally created racism. You learn this when you take university level sociology, okay? So understand, this is a false matrix that has separated us from spirit, from our higher consciousness, from being able to engage in the ethers, in the astral realms. We're not able to travel. We're stuck in this place, and we think that this is all that there is. So this period where this tremendous pressure has been put upon us, where you may have had everything taken from you. I talk about this all the time. In 2020, my career was taking off like a fucking rocket ship. Literally, I was in meetings with HBO. Like, everyone knows, like, it's my dream to work with HBO. I love HBO. I have since I was a kid. You know, everything that I wanted to do in my career was kicking off. I got fully sober, right? And like, everything kind of just stopped, and we went into lockdown, and everything just kind of stopped in terms of my career. And this is because, you know, when we're going through a process of transcendence and we are battling that last enemy, I think it's Dumbledore who calls it the last enemy, is death, in Harry Potter, but I'm getting somewhere with this because this is a very low vibrational understanding of death. That I'm expressing here. When we're battling that final enemy and the enemy is throwing, the adversary, Shaitan, is throwing absolutely everything that they can at us to get us to give up, to get us to pledge fealty, to bend the knee to the false matrix who controls all of these plutocrats. You know what I mean? Controls all of these, dare I say, bloodlines. Because of this promise of power. And you know this, if you've ever read Revelations, this is the WOB. That's what I refer to it as. The W of Babylon, right? I have these in my archives, in my crystalline archives. I'm not going to get into this right now. I might make a video of it separately and post it on YouTube. I might make a TikTok, but it's probably going to be too long for TikTok. But the point is, the chalice that is offered by the WOB is filled with wine. It's overflowing. It's like this very decadent thing. Wine does not give life. Water gives life. So when we look at the Ace of Cups, we see a chalice overflowing with water, the living waters from the high heart chakra. You understand? When you are operating from the false paradigm, this false mother matrix, you're not actually able to breed anything that has longevity, that has sustenance. You're really only able to breed things that come from death and that perpetuate and proliferate death. Why do you think capitalism requires you to be, it rewards you for being a psychopath? The more psychopathic you are, the further that you go and the more abundance that you get. So this time that we've been in this pressurized alchemical chamber, thank you, Saturn. Thank you for putting this pressure on us to expunge us of the iniquities. What are the iniquities? The iniquities are fear, because that's how we're programmed. This is why I refer to socialization as being it's traumatization. Okay, we are being, we're punished essentially, for being ourselves. We're punished. We're taught that being loving, being open, being kind, being compassionate is something that is going to get us into trouble. Something that should be, and that, like I said, the worse that you are, the less empathetic that you are, the more individualistic you are, the further that you're gonna go. Because even when you see people, committing white-collar crimes, when you see banks failing constantly, confirmation birth, they get bailed out. They never actually experience the consequences of their actions. Saturn forces us to engage with the consequences of our actions. Why? Because Saturn is the true mother. The mother who loves you enough to chastise you. The mother who loves you enough to let you fall on your fucking face so that you can learn your lesson and you don't go through that again. Because that's the mother that knows the true wealth and abundance of this world is wisdom. And you learn that through experience. Like I've been saying, the Most High, Creator, the universe, what have you, loves us so much unconditionally. And that's why we are given the opportunity to heal. If not, there would be no room for atonement. We'd fuck up and that's it. And that's what certain spiritual cults want you to believe. But that's not true. There's always room for atonement. You can never go so far that you can't turn around and come back. And that's why they don't teach atonement in those specific spiritual sects. Because that's not the true Christian, that's not true Christianity. That's not truly what the Christ is about. Christ consciousness. Christ expression, Christos expression. So the true mother is water and light. We live in a universe, this is just beyond quantum physics, because quantum physics is like a little bit different. This is just regular physics. This is just astronomy. Like, our universe is made of water and light. It's just, that's what is reflecting on each other. And then we introduce into it in the third dimension, matter, earth. So when we have shadow, it's because we have now combined light and matter together, and it's all suspended in this matrix of water and light. That's what 𝗪𝗁𝗃 was, and that's why the original light workers come from 𝗪𝗁𝗃. And 𝗪𝗁𝗃 seeded a lot of Lemurians on Earth, okay? So for some people, you think, oh, this is my first time coming to Earth, I'm just a starseed. No. It doesn't mean that Earth is not even that old compared to a lot of other things. I talked about this the other day. This sun that we live with is not a particularly special sun. You know, and it's a very regular sun. And Earth is a planet that surrounds it. So one, if you are a celestial in the sense of you have star consciousness, you are very, very ancient. Probably more ancient than Earth. So coming to Earth for the first time doesn't mean that you are not ancient. It doesn't mean that you don't carry extremely old ancient codes, primordial codes in you. In fact, I would say that it is more likely to be true. If you have a bunch of Earth incarnations, that means more than likely you are much younger in terms of your consciousness being born and entering into this realm with the Big Bang. Okay, so that's something that Spirit really wanted me to communicate when I was talking about the sacred waters, nourishment, replenishment, health, rest, self-care. All of this, having everything, it's like a Job season, right? This season of humiliation. But for some of us, it's like it's a lifetime of humiliation. But, you know, a lifetime is a season in the grand scheme of things for a lot of us. I was talking about 𝗪ᵉᵗ 𝗪ᵃ. He knew how to be triumphant over the death of his physical body and to to make the decisions of how to reincarnate. That's why he was thrice born. This is something that the ancient Cometians or the people of Kemet, Egypt, Nubia, I don't remember if Kush was part of Kemet, but Egypt and Nubia were definitely part of Kemet. But that area, they were really, really, especially Egypt, was really obsessed with death. And it's actually because they were really obsessed with life and they were obsessed with control. I'll say my ancient ancestors, I'm 𝗪ᵃ. So my ancient ancestors left the area of Nubia and Kush because they were escaping slavery. And one of the things that I've downloaded for years now is that when these entities, which I'm identifying as Naga entities, when these entities came and infiltrated the priesthood of Egypt, this is what caused the decline of Egypt. And it calcified and putrefied the minds of because the priesthood, you know, we have priest kings, you have the mandate of heaven, you have the right of heaven to rule because you are an incarnation of the divine. That's what they believed, right? All over the planet, this is what we believe because the mandate of heaven is actually a term that comes from China. But this is something that existed all over the planet. Of course, we all come from one place, Pangea, and we all come from one ancestor, so it makes sense. But understand that when these entities came and they infiltrated the priesthoods of all of these leading civilizations, this was a global project, okay? Because it was, you have to understand, when I talk about global culture, right, I trace it back to the Roman Empire, colonizing the tribes of Europe, becoming the Holy Roman Empire. All of those tribes of Europe become their own little sovereign domains, kings and queens of Spain and France and, you know, Austria, and they're all ruled by the Habsburgs, and they're all part of the Holy Roman Empire. And what do all of them do? They go out and they conquer the rest of the world. And what what is most important to them is impressing their cultural norms, their cultural ideas. So this requires a mindset of consciousness. It requires you to remove these people from their gods and their deities and their spiritual beliefs that collectivize them. This already breaks them out, breaks them up, and puts them into a space of chaos amongst one another, because what was holding them together no longer is. What happens next? Their minds are polluted and infiltrated with these ideologies. And we've already talked about what those ideologies are, and that is the inverted pentagram that people talk about, that people see. This is leading us towards the ultimate death, ultimate destruction. And that would be, for us, it would be lowering past third dimension consciousness and losing spiritual rank. Okay, we already have 3D consciousness, and then some of us, like I said, are born with 4D consciousness. But when you experience this true death, the fallen angels, for instance, you fall down to a lower vibrational existence. Because death is actually just transformation. Thank you, Pluto. Okay, so they institute a principle and an ideology of psychopathy, or psychopathy as some people say it. And this is what allows us, this is what divides us and allows us to think that we're better than our family, our earth family, our earthling family, our human family. You understand? If you truly are in the spirit, how could you ever think that you are better than, more worthy of life than? That just goes to show me that you don't have spiritual rank. It goes to show me that you don't have spiritual wisdom. And it makes me wonder, are you really as high vibrational as you say that you are? Because we may be more powerful, but those of us who have more power have more responsibility. We were given that power to be of service to the collective. And then these sects, like I said, these priesthoods were infiltrated. And the regents, the sovereigns, were initiated to certain levels of wisdom and understanding within these priesthoods. We have a lot of these people being priest kings. But either way, even if they weren't, they have, like, you see in Aladdin, the Grand Vizier of the Sultan, right? The Grand Vizier of the Sultan was Jafar. And he could get in the Sultan's ear and put a worm in his ear and put a thought in his mind that makes him do certain things, like forcing Jasmine to marry when she's not ready to marry. She doesn't want to marry. She's trying to get, she's trying to live her best life. And ultimately, she knows that she has her divine counterpart out there. She's like, I'm not interested in any of these bozos, okay? I'm not trying to get with none of these guys, okay? So the Grand Vizier, Jafar, is getting in the mind of the Sultan, the sovereign. And this happens on the macrocosmic level and the microcosmic level. That's the personal level. And then you start to see the breakup of the Kemetic kingdom. And you start to see them spiral into a downfall, right? But you do need to remember that Greece, Rome, Macedonia, all of these people learned from the Egyptians. They went to Kemet to learn these secrets. And so these corrupted priests taught them how to bind the gods in their bones and how to enslave and exploit them. When you see a genie being put inside of a lamp, this is exactly what we're talking about. Why is it that an all-powerful being is trapped inside of a lamp and made to be not just a servant, but a slave to a being that has less power to it? And when we talk about this, do understand that, like, this is part of why Iblis rebelled against, like, the Most High in Islamic scripture and the Islamic stories. But because Iblis was like, I'm not bowing to a human. You feel me? Like, I'm not doing that. But this is beyond this. These people knew how to imprison higher vibrational beings. It's like in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina when they have the Acheron. They knew how to imprison them in the carnal form, the incarnated body, and trap them in karmic cycles so that they hoped that they would lose spiritual rank by them not being able to fulfill their duties. This is how you have fallen angels. Understand? So I say this all to say we are still living in the mindsets and principles of these corrupted sovereigns, these corrupted priest kings, the corrupted priests, all of this stuff, who were corrupted by the Nagas. And I'm going to say that, but they're not all bad. Okay, do remember that they're not still doing readings today. Yes, I am still doing readings. Please feel free to book one. I'm happy to do one. So please understand that this is like, we're still living in that empire, that evil empire, because we're still living in the ideological prison of it. They don't have to have us imprisoned. Okay, I will be on the lookout for it. And let me know like what your question is and how much you send. So I can know to do 3 cards or 5 cards. But these are the serpents that got inside of the ears of these sovereigns and these rulers and created this dissension, this devolution, if you will, of consciousness to keep people at an infantile level so that they then could be controlled. And you hear especially in these religious cults, these spiritual cults that are like, oh, you know, all serpents are evil, all serpents are bad. That's not true, obviously. All feminine energy is bad. No, the ones who are doing this are, yes, they are evil. They are committing evil acts, and therefore, overall, they are, you know, proliferating evil, but that's not true for all of them. So when you hear, I recently saw a guy on TikTok talking about like, the dragon is the enemy. And this is a long-standing, like, obviously like 2,000 years of rhetoric put out by the Nicene Council and like the corrupted church. That's not true. Sophia is a dragon. Christ is a dragon. These primordial energies are dragons. Okay, I got it. Let me know if you have a specific question that you want me to ask, or if you just want me to tap in and get some general messages. And I just put this card away, but I didn't mean to do that. Here it is. So when we talk about the serpent, it's really important to stop operating from black or white thinking. That is two-dimensional thinking. You are incarnate, at the very least, you're incarnate in the 3D. Like, what? Why would you want to operate from a low? Because that's going to devolve you. And that's going to get you to experience the true death so that you descend even further and lose even more rank. And then you can be controlled. Okay? And you can be enslaved and forced to do things for these quote unquote powers that be. Okay? All right. General messages would be great. I've been feeling so stuck and lost lately. I feel you. I feel you. Okay. And so just to sum that up, black or white thinking is two-dimensional thinking, and you're not doing alchemy. And like I said, for a lot of us, we are alchemists. Our bodies are alchemical chambers. If you are part of the 144,000, your body is an alchemical chamber. Energy of this planet comes into you, and you transmute it through your causal energy. So you have to stop pretending to be someone you're not. You have to stop playing small. If you know that you're a god, say so. It took me, like literally, so many initiated shamans of my ancestral religion have told me that I am a god on earth. And I knew that. Ever since I was a kid, I knew that. You know what I mean? Like, many readers have told me that. And it took me a while to be able to like live in that truth because I was afraid of the social retribution and consequences because we're socialized to police one another of what would happen if I lived in that truth. But the truth is, nothing's gonna happen. You go against God, good luck to you. I'd like to see you try. You feel me? So whatever you are, earth angel, incarnated deity, God on earth, you know, if you are the oversoul of a collective, if you are a siren, you need to start living in that, because that's how we're going to ease this transition. We have this eclipse happening today, and I'm reading this as like that's the end of the birth canal. We'll be on the other side of the birth canal then. So the past 4 years we've been in gestation, kind of like a 9-month thing. In the past year from this time last year with that opening of the gates, we've been in the birth canal and now we're coming out. So I want to go ahead, guess what's coming for me in health and wealth. Okay, let's get some messages for our